Man, welcome to the Boneyard podcast. It is Matt Mosley alongside Coach Corey Campbell, Davis Wilson waiting in the wings. He'll go behind into the lines, and we'll talk about these Richardson Eagles as the Wildcats get ready to head over to Eagle Mustangs, 7 o'clock matchup. It's a big one. All of them are, but obviously Wildcats undefeated in district. Richardson sitting at 4-1. And Coach, good to see you. It was fun to be out there Thursday night because they moved it up because of the storms. And then about 7 o'clock Friday night, of course, there was no weather. It finally did hit. It hit a little bit later. But then I kind of snuck over there. I know you guys were a little thrown off to see Mosley hanging out behind the end zone over there. But what an operation y'all have. I didn't realize the coaches had that many opportunities to eat, during, before, post game. The kids have some options pre and post, but to see Steve Harden and his family and some of the folks over from, I believe, one of the churches you're attending, that's a neat group over there. So I thought that was a great perspective. And if they sneak me in there again, that may be where I take you in all games. All right, anywhere we got some Chick-fil-A and a few sliders. Stratarosa provided some sliders. Don't think that was for the media. But the media always has a way of finding some free food. So, Coach, it was kind of nice to see you at halftime. And generally, I would avoid trying to visit with you during an intense time. But y'all had a safe lead, so it was nice to be able to kind of catch up with you for a second.
Yeah, no doubt. Shout out to Pastor Harden, Steve Harden, man. He's been a friend of the program, true great friend of mine for a long time. And, man, it just gives back in so many ways. And to our staff, to our kids, to our community, and he's just one of us, and that's kind of a tradition that we've been doing for a long time around here. So I'm glad you got to be a part of that a little bit. We do have VIPs. We'll make sure you get your name tag next time.
Yeah, love to have a pass over there. I heard Bryn mentioning that the security's pretty tight. I think she was trying to send me a message, but and Steve Harden, by the way, if Steve Harden, when I was in the church youth group, Kaufman, First Baptist Kaufman, if he showed up at your youth camp, you were at the proper youth camp. Yeah. I mean, he was a wild man, a great speaker. I know he's still a great speaker, but I can imagine. I wonder why y'all come out with so much energy. I think those pregame prayers from Steve Harden probably play a role in that. But that great guy, and he had a kid who I think is now finished at Oklahoma, who was part of y'all's program back in the day. So, man, that's a neat deal to see the Harden family hanging out, still giving back to the community. And where he went to school, Brian Adams, I think he gives back over there as well. Although we want most of his investment over here with Lake Collins. Coach, I also wanted you to brag for a little bit. I got a big by-district playoff game coming up. Shockingly, the Lake Collins will be playing South Grand Prairie. It seems like every playoff, whether it be football or whatever, they get involved. But Friday at 5:30 at our place, and this has been a really good volleyball team. They're the district champs, and so that happens at 5:30, and then, of course, 7 p.m. is kickoff at Eagle Mustang. So I think folks should be able to catch most of the volleyball. I hope they take care of business pretty quickly and then get over across town to watch the football.
Yeah, exciting time. Super proud of our girls. Volleyball, they're having all-district meetings right now. We're hosting it because of the district championship. And so excited about that group and their opportunity Friday at 5:30. And then obviously 7 o'clock Friday night, biggest ball game of the year. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Great opponent that we're going to face. And, this is why you do it.
All right. And then so you got that. And in fact, why we're having a little different setting today is because volleyball is doing some all-district meeting in our space. And I see who runs things around here. I mean, you are the AD, but we've turned over our space. We're in your luxurious office here, and then you can see the gorgeous indoor facility behind us and see some of those trophies behind us. So good to be in your office. And I noticed you turned off some of the plays, so Davis and I can't see too much back here. So also wanted you to talk about I wanted to ask you about the cross country They had regionals. I believe they were out in Lubbock on the high plains for that. And, two qualifiers for state. And that's, it's a great program, but that's, I think I noticed you have to finish at a certain place. And one of them finished, I don't know, top 6 or 7. One of them finished 10th. And then they both get to go to state now.
Yeah, I talked to Alana, I guess, last Tuesday when they were finishing up in Lubbock, and Red Austin and AJ Thompson were our 2 state qualifiers. So anytime, I don't care what sport you're in, anytime you get an opportunity to compete in the state meet, what an accomplishment that is. And those athletes are running next Tuesday, I believe, at 10:30. So we'll be happy to watch those and proud of their accomplishments.
All right, and I believe if I've got the right family, I'm buddies with Rhett's dad, and he was a Wildcat, played here, and had some of those great holds, by the way, for Phil Dawson back in the day. Also, those incredible clutch kicks in the playoffs, and then you mentioned AJ Thompson, Steve Thompson, and some of that gang, and I think he's got TCU ties, so we won't go too far into that. But no, it's a great family, and he's got Aggie and his family as well. So fun times, and that's great. Now, Wildcats take care of business 63-14 the other night. You and Davis talked about behind enemy lines about that slot tee. It is interesting. It's something it's like I was talking to one of your D-line coaches, and it's like you don't want to derail everything you've done for the whole season to just focus on one team, but you also want to be prepared. So I'm sure that was a little bit of a fine line last week. Hey, let's get ready for this thing, but let's not change so much that we get out of the rhythm. How do you think you guys stood up against it? And obviously you held them to 14 points. And then one of the touchdowns came, late in the game or in the second half. But how'd you figure out the defense held up against a kind of a strange looking offense that you won't see again?
Yeah, I thought we did. I thought we played really well. Obviously, it's very unique, very different. And so, I talked to the staff a little bit, about the previous weekend. You just have to be prepared, when they run a little trap or dive to the fullback, and, you're not used to guys doesn't even know who have the ball because of all the misdirection and stuff. And so it took us maybe a series or two to kind of get a little, comfortable, so to speak, with that scheme. But I thought they played really well. And, it was exciting for us to be able to get a lot of people in. I think everyone got to play quite a bit Thursday night. So that's always fun. And, we'll go back to a little bit more traditional approach this week with Richardson and when, how they do things offensively.
All right. And then just to work through some of the game, you jump out to the lead. Chuck was, coming off a week where you wanted to kind of talk to him about some of the decision making, and he's had put up such huge numbers this year. But I mean, one of his passes, I think that was to Spangler down the sideline, was one of his most gorgeous throws of the year. But he kind of set the tone early, seemed like was decisive, knew exactly where he was going. Was that kind of the focus coming in? Is just, hey, let's know where we're going with the ball, and seemed like he was pretty sharp in this game.
Yeah, no doubt. I think when you look at, we wanted to start fast. We kind of talked about that. We felt like that we were going to be able to get on them. And so there's some few things that we wanted to work on, and we tried to work on that. Obviously, I think we were joking at halftime, we've got our iPads now and the technology, and so they bring it from downstairs and we're watching, and there were 16 offensive plays in the first half, and we'll talk more about the defense, but anytime you get a couple defensive touchdowns, you look up and we just didn't snap the ball. So there wasn't a whole lot to look at. That's why I could come glad hand with you over there.
Mm-hmm.
Press row or over there, but we didn't have much to look at. But we wanted to start fast. I believe he was like 8 for 8, did exactly what we wanted. And we were able to get some other people in there and get reps. So that's always good as well.
All right. And you mentioned it, the scoop and scores. I believe J. Ray mentioned to somebody over there. That's one of the great things about being over there glad handing, is I kind of pick up on some of the things. But I think because Christian Rhodes had a 61-yard touchdown. I believe J. Ray was comparing himself to Christian. Felt like some of the speed that he showed on those fumble returns. But, hey, those were very athletic plays. One time a guy just kind of coughed it up out of nowhere, and J. Ray was on the scene. Then he had the other one. But, man, those are galvanizing plays. And what you hope is when you have, 4 fumble recoveries, that there can be a little bit of a carryover effect into future games, don't you?
Yeah, that'd be nice if we get a couple more of those this week. I think J. Ray and I had a kind of a fun moment on the sidelines after that second one. He came over there, and it looked like he was out of gas. And I kind of laughed, and he kind of laughed. And it's always great when you score on defense. We wanted to get back out there offensively. But, at the same time, you can put 14 points on the board in the first half with defensive touchdowns. It's going to give you a great opportunity to be successful.
The Osarola family has been helping Lake Collins for a long time, and there's more help on the way. I think they have a freshman player, Abel Osarola, who helps you on special teams and more on defense, doesn't always get called out. But, really made some nice plays on special teams with big hits, causing fumbles, that kind of thing. That must have really stood out to you when you're kind of looking at some of your special teams, I would think.
Yeah, very much so. This weekend we looked at a lot of special teams through Richardson. And I think it just kind of goes to show, talk about galvanizing a group. Special teams is going to be huge again this week. They've got a couple of really electric returners. So we're going to have to do a really good job. So it's good to see him have success Thursday night.
All right. And then your receivers, both Conrad Entz, who's been a really big target for you this year, and then Mason Spangler, who'd been banged up earlier this season, is really starting to round into form. It just seems like you're in a good spot with all the guys you're going to throw to. And then you got other weapons that you even held out in this game. Hollywood was not able to sit out a few players in this game, but in terms of your offensive weapons, seemed like everybody was firing and back to making some really good catches.
Yeah, no doubt. I think when you go look at our stat line, Coach Murphy every week showing me our tendency reports and our self-scout and stuff like that. And on there, it's got obviously receivers and catches and stuff like that, first quarter, second quarter, so on. And so I think one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to spread the ball around, but at the same time, if you pull up our scouting report, I think we've had 7 different guys catch, double-digit balls or more. So that just goes to show you that, we have confidence in all those guys, and sometimes your number's called, sometimes it's not. And when it is, some of our guys have been able to make plays.
All right. And like I say, played everybody. You win 63-14. But this is a game, we always do offensive and defensive. Who stood out to you in those areas? And then we'll, of course, do our unsung hero of the game or the week.
Yeah, offensively, our player of the week this week is Kobe Moreland. He had a couple touchdowns. It's great to see him have success. Had a big catch on a crosser across the middle early on in the first half. So that was fun to see. Got in the end zone as well from the backfield running the ball. Defensively, it's hard to go against J. Ray when you're a defensive player and you get 2 touchdowns. So our defensive player of the week, J. Ray, and he trying to look at Paz's tackles right here.
Yeah,
7 tackles, 3 assists, 10 total, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and 2 touchdowns. So pretty big stat line for an inside linebacker. And so it's fun to see him have success out there Thursday night.
All right, and then your unsung player of the week or person, who would that be?
Yeah, this week it's going to be Copeland Greenberg. He's battled through some injuries, an integral part of what we do offensively from that center position. We're kind of at a point where we don't think it can get worse, but I don't know how much better it's going to get. And the kid just said, "Coach, I want to play," and just tough, tough player. And went out there Friday night, and I think he played about a half and just kind of gutting through it right now. And so Copeland Greenberg is going to be our unsung hero this week.
How do you try to keep – it's really hard. Mason Bush was going to be such a big part of this team. Deuce Black, I was over there kind of behind the end zone with him because he's had surgery and can't really be on the sideline. How do guys, Michael Klein is going through it right now, coming back from a hand injury. I noticed he was maybe one of your captains the other night. How do you try to keep guys involved when, they've given so much to the program, but they're not able to be out there on the field? How do you try to keep those guys engaged?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think as a young coach, you watch guys you work for do it a lot of different ways. Mason's been in. I walked in the offensive line film room this morning, and he's in there with those guys, helping those guys. Obviously, he's got a considerable amount of knowledge of the game, and so he's kind of being assistant coach behind the scenes. He hasn't had his surgery yet. I think we're next week. Deuce obviously having his surgery already, wanted to keep him off the sidelines like you were talking about. And so just trying to keep them involved. I mean, they're at practice, being able to visit with them every day. I don't know that there's one thing you can do to keep them, engaged, but we just try to do a plethora of things that try to keep them involved. And then, with Michael, he was a captain the other night. He's given so much to our program, and we just kind of wanted to honor him a little bit. And he's the same way. I mean, he's out of practice, and he's got that cast on now with those pins in there. We'll kind of see how that transpires.
All right. And man, the Chuck the other night was 8 for 8. Mm-hmm. I think their quarterback was 1 for 1. So so perfect quarterback play the other night. But good. By the way, Glenn wants to remind you that you did break a drought of fourth quarter scores that had gone back like 41 calendar days. So you scored in the fourth quarter the other night. Some of these games you're so far ahead, you're kind of trying not to score. So we should point that out. But yeah,
so that's a good one to break. So, I wasn't aware of that.
You're back to fourth quarter scored, and hey, that's an interesting balance, isn't it, to keep in a year where you're beating up on some people pretty badly. You haven't always, it's been a while. I think the Burtner game was good for y'all in a weird sort of way. You would have liked to have just kept the foot on their throat, but seeing them come back and then still pull it out, that can be really good for you moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's big. When you talk about being in close games, I think kids feed off of that. They enjoy that. And so, as a coach, sometimes I don't. And then in those games where, you're winning in the end, I was taught there's a right way, I believe to do things, and we're not going to run up the score and do all that kind of type stuff. And so, I know that's not always popular, but that's the way we're going to kind of approach it. And, those games are probably there's not many left on the schedule, so we don't have to worry about that too much going forward.
Yeah. And I don't think Sean Payton has the same attitude. Dan Campbell, your former Aggie, they tend to kind of, especially when it's Jerry, they like to kind of pile it up, as the Denver Broncos, some of you might have seen, beat the Cowboys 44-24. Good to see Shaw Jenkins get in, make a big play to Spangler for a big 38-yard pass. So some guys getting in the second half, your running back room. I mean, you'll go really, even when you kind of get down the line, you still have some talent there. And we've been talking about it this year. You're starting to have some sophomores show up for you. I mean, you did from the start of this season, but I mean, they're making big plays, so showing some of that depth. I do think it's now time to go behind enemy lines, and so we'll ask Davis Wilson to step in with you, and we'll take a look at these Richardson Eagles, and Davis will bounce some stuff against Coach as we go behind enemy lines.
All right, welcome back to Behind Enemy Lines. Coach, congrats on your win last week. I thought you handled the slot T pretty well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thanks for having us in your office. I like it in here.
Yeah, there we go.
It's nice.
Yeah, maybe it's not as big as the friendly confines of the media room, but that's okay.
I like it, yeah. Well, we got a big game coming up this week against Richardson on Friday night, Halloween. That'll be good.
Not too popular right now with the game there. Guess there's a lot of festivities on Dart Ridge or something like that. So.
Oh yeah, they love it over there. Yeah. Well, this is a big one. You guys are the two hottest teams in the district coming in. You guys obviously have won 7 straight. Richardson's won 4 in a row. They are 5-2 overall, 4-1 in the district coming in. and they got some talent on both sides of the ball there. The first guy I was at the Richardson-Pierce game a few weeks ago, and one guy continued to kind of pop off the field, and it was their big number one defensive lineman, Winfield, who's going to play for Lincoln Riley at USC.
Yep.
He's a big guy and very disruptive. When you have a guy like that, talented guy, big guy, what is your game like? How do you deal with him? What's your game plan here offensively to just make sure he doesn't go crazy?
Yeah, there's a reason that he's going to USC. I mean, he's got all the measurables. He's an unbelievable player. He really can disrupt the game. So I don't know if you can go into a plan and say, we're going to remove him or take him out of the game. He's going to make plays. He showed it on video all year long. You just have to pick and choose your battles of how you want to attack them. And hopefully, you turn on the tape Friday night about 10 o'clock and, he doesn't have a ton of tackles. But he's super dominant, whether you're throwing the ball or running the ball. He anchors that defensive line group. A couple ends are really athletic. And so it's going to be a huge challenge. Watching eight games now of Richardson, I don't know that anybody's figured it out. And it just speaks to the kind of player he is.
Yeah. And then, also on that defense, he's obviously the main guy, but they've got some other big guys. It's a talented unit. What kind of defense are we going to see Richardson let?
Yeah, so they're going to base 4 down front. They're going to be an even front, play 4-2-5. When the formation's balanced, it'll look a little bit more like a 4-3. 2 high safeties. They'll mix it up a little bit. They'll play a little 2-man. They'll spin a safety down. But they're super talented in the secondary. They've had a lot of success this year. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a great matchup. I think it's week 9, and we've kind of not talked about it to the kids about, hey, we're going to be where our feet are. We're going to be 1-0 today, and that's kind of what I talked to them about on Thursday night. You have an opportunity to win an outright district championship. You have an opportunity to be city champs. You have an opportunity for, all the things. We've got to make sure that we do everything we do to slow down Winfield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we need to worry about, not all those other things. But exciting time for the kids and the community. And like I said, this is kind of what I was telling Matt. This is kind of what you play for.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side of the ball, Richardson is, they've been scoring recently for sure. They've got talent. They've got a quarterback who can really throw it, and they got a running back who's been productive. And then they've got a receiver, a really fast receiver going to Texas State, Damian Crow. And he was really productive last year. He's been good this year. You guys did a good job with him last year. I went back and looked at the box score. It seems like you managed him pretty well, but he's coming off a big game where he caught 6 passes for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. When you got speed like that, he's fast, and they have weapons, not just him, but
sure.
That offense has been scoring. What do you look to do against a guy like Crow who can be over the top?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, that he's one of the probably top receivers in the Metroplex. I think the big difference between last year's team and this year's team is now they have, they've got a group of wide receivers that are really talented. They've got 4 or 5 of those guys. Quarterback throws it really well, and at the end of the day, when you look at the box scores and go back and watch the tape, there's been multiple receivers. I know in the Pierce game, they had a leading receiver, and the Lake Ridge game, they had a leading receiver, and then obviously the other, Burtner, leading receiver. The other night against Jesuit, a different one. And so I don't know that you can single in on, one guy, and that may be a little bit different from last year, but man, I think they almost put up 600 yards of offense the other night against Jesuit, and they're going to throw the football. We're going to kind of bend but don't break, type deal. Hopefully we can limit their explosive plays. But make no mistake about it, we're going up against a great offense Friday night.
Yeah. They're coming off a 1-point win against Jesuit last week. You mentioned their explosive plays. Their offense has been really getting it going in the last couple of games. They're undefeated in the month of October. They've been, in the last 4 games this month, they're averaging over 53 points a game. And obviously maybe the quality of defense they've been playing hasn't been equal to what they're playing maybe in months prior, but that's still a lot of points that they're scoring. And you mentioned explosive plays. All their touchdowns against Jesuit came on plays of over 20 yards, I believe, and the longest one was a 71-yard passing touchdown to Crow, the guy we were just talking about. So
Yep.
What do you do against this team to limit the explosiveness?
Yeah, I think you got to show them different looks. You can't just stay in the same coverage versus the same formation versus the same front all night long. So we have to be multiple. We've got to disguise a little bit in the secondary, show them some different looks. We're going to have to bring pressure at times. So that means we're going to have to play man a little bit. And so I think that's where, you try to start, is you need to show them. You don't want them to be comfortable. You want to be multiple. As you mentioned, they've had more explosive plays than anybody we've played. We did our data this weekend. They've had more than anybody, and so it's gonna be a huge challenge Friday night to try and limit some of those explosive plays.
Yeah, a much different offense than the slot team.
Yeah, very very much so. One pass probably versus 35 or 40.
Yeah.
So
you're getting both sides of the spectrum here in 2 weeks. So it'll be
very
good.
much.
All right, Coach. What are the keys to the game if Lake Highlands wins on Friday? What are the keys to the game for you?
Yeah, I think we've got to try and limit Winfield's his dominance in the game. We've got to do a good job up front. I think that's where the game of football is won and lost. So we got to do a good job on our offensive line. We've talked about our first down efficiency, and then I think defensively being multiple is a key to the game, and not giving up the explosive play. They're gonna score. We've got to make them earn drives, not turning on that video on Saturday and seeing a bunch of explosive plays that result in touchdowns. So I think those are the keys for us up front. We got to win up front on the offensive line, and we got to limit the explosive plays as much as possible, from a defense perspective.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Those are the keys of the game for Coach. Friday night, Halloween. Richardson, are you going to be in costume on the sideline?
I think this is the costume you're going to get right here.
You can throw on a top hat and Tom Landry or something. Well, that's all we have here for Behind Enemy Lines. I'll hand it back over to Matt to finish out this episode of the Boneyard Podcast.
All right, it is. Boy, I like that behind enemy lines. That was good. And I like Davis's idea. Put a little fedora, maybe honor Coach Landry or honor Randy Allen, whatever you want to do. But put something on, do something a little different. And that's sad. You move into the neighborhood. We're so excited to have you. Everybody's excited to come over there and trick or treat at the AD and the head coach's house, and you won't even be there, will you? Nobody.
I'm going to have to miss it this year.
Okay. So you're going to have to go buy candy or anything like that. Okay. In the 55 games since the Richardson and Lake Highlands started playing each other, 1968 was that first year, 39-15-1, Lake Highlands leads. All right. And this is the opponent the Wildcats have played the most in their history. It was only interrupted when Richardson went down a classification to 2002 or 2003. I thought that was just Highland Park who did that. Now, 1961, the Eagles, they became the Eagles, but the original mascot was the Badgers. Very interesting. Glenn Gant coming up with some history there. Now, they moved to their current campus on Beltline Road. That was 1961. I'm not exactly sure when they became the Eagles, but right around then. And think about that, the Richardson Badgers. We ought to do something with that. Our kids ought to have a little fun with that. But Richardson, that game will happen. Eagle Mustang Friday night at 7 o'clock. Okay, I'll be okay here. 1978, a little history here. Listen, here was it. This was the district. Plano was in there. Lake Highlands, Richardson, Highland Park. Plano had a record since they had joined the district of 59-2-3. And how many playoff spots were there back then?
One.
Just one. By the time you were playing at Archer City, how many were there? Two. Okay, it had increased to two, and I think y'all made it. All 4 of your years you were playing varsity, or did y'all get in there?
Maybe something like that.
Okay, coach not wanting to go turn back time for us. Now, both teams there, Richardson 1978 came in 5-2. And so, trying to get up there and battle Plano for a playoff spot. Senior halfback Charles Gray started that 1978 game against Richardson, 53 yards off tackle. He would have 223 yards of total offense. Almost sounds like a Rico Dowdle against the Cowboys, and 4 touchdowns in that. Quarterback Matt Dunnigan would toss 2 touchdown passes, one to Gray and another to Steve Cummins, tight end Steve Cummins. And the Cats, while trailing in that game, battled back, and they were down 24-20 and came back to win that game 34-24. That was October 27th, 1978. And so a big one for that was at Wildcat Stadium. I like how he leaves Ram. There's no reason to get them involved in anything. And then 1978, by the way, that season, Greenville and Plano tied, but Plano got to go. You knew they would figure out a way. And then Plano started rolling through the playoffs until they faced Houston Stratford. Who was Houston Stratford's running back circa 1978, would you say? Think Pony Express.
Yeah, but that was a little before 78, wasn't it?
So 1978, he would have been a senior.
Okay, yeah. Played with Dickerson.
The great Craig James.
Yeah.
Ran for Senate, and then got run out of the Texas Tech. But, okay, by the way, those guys played it. Matt Dunnigan ended up being a CFL Hall of Famer, started at Louisiana Tech. That was Kirk McJunkin, who I still see around, played at Texas, played for the Steelers for a little bit, and then with the USFL, San Antonio Gunslingers. And Kirk went on to be an AD and did some stuff over at TCA, I recall. Stanley Redwine would end up being a huge track star for the Arkansas Razorbacks, and he would medal in the Pan Am Games and becoming the head track and cross-country coach at Kansas. Lake Highlands has produced some amazing folks. And then Jeff Courtwright, who would back up Lance McElhaney at SMU. And for my money, while Jamel Holloway and Charles Thompson and all those OU guys were awesome at running the option, wishbone, whatever, but the SMU option, it's nice when you have Craig James and Dickerson, and then they had Reggie Dupard after that. But in terms of how you wanted to coach the option, and when the ball came out, and as a quarterback, you needed to wait till the last minute. Lance McElhaney could be getting blown up and still make a perfect option pitch. Now you can see Lance, if you go over there to Highland Park, go to Micosina or somewhere over there, you might run into Lance, okay?
Back in my day when I used to coach, I guess it was late 90s, early 2000s, I was coaching at Sealy, and that's where Eric Dickerson went to high school. And so there's a lot of stories about the Pony Express coming out of South Texas.
Anybody ever see a Trans Am?
Maybe something like that.
That came through like that. Man, that's some history, and some great players. Though current day, there's going to be some D1 talent on that field. Y'all were talking about one of them from Richardson, but Lake Highlands has a lot of talented kids, and it's going to be a fun matchup. Get on over there, watch our girls play volleyball. That's 5:30 on Friday at our school, in our gym, and that'll be a loud, packed audience. Go ahead and beat SGP, knock them out, and then head over to watch the Wildcats, 7 o'clock at Eagle Mustang. You like that? Is that stadium okay to play? The lighting, everything, the grass, everything okay over there?
I think everything's fine over there. We haven't been over there too many times. I guess we played Pierce over there, and then, every other time Richardson over there. But yeah, everything's good. Need a great week of work and play well on Friday night.
All right. It'll be a good one for Coach Campbell and Davis Wilson. I am Matt Mosley. Thank you for listening and downloading the Boneyard Podcast from Corey Campbell's wonderful office.